Hello, Freedom Preppers. Perrin Lovett here once again for Prepper News Weekly for Friday, May 4th, 2018. And today we're going to talk about some socialism stories in the news of late. But before we go any further, if you'll just go down and like the video, maybe subscribe to the channel, and share this information with your friends. It's funny, there was a lot going on this week, and a lot of it pertains to prepping, and I honestly didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. There are many things going on. But one thing, with the stories that I did notice, and that I've noticed lately, it all seems like the law of unintended consequences of big socialism. Socialist this, socialist that. People, a lot of people think it's great to have central planning. And it turns out to be as disastrous as a tornado or a hurricane. We had very tragic news, I think it was actually last week. Alfie Evans, who was 23 months old, was born with a unusual brain condition that ended up killing him. He was treated in Britain's hospitals under their National Health Service, and this is the socialized medicine system that so many people in America, like Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, say is the way to go. It's free for everybody. They don't tell you about the increased taxes to pay for it, but it's free. They also don't tell you that it doesn't work so well all the time, that people end up waiting. And if you're diagnosed with a condition like Alfie was, and the doctor says there's no treatment and you're going to die, well, you're probably going to die. And they don't give a lot of second opinions. If they do, then it's the NHS, the second NHS doctor. It's very hard to get an outside opinion. But Alfie's parents actually did, and there were some doctors all over Europe that said that, no, this brain condition, while it's rare, is potentially treatable, and he should be given the opportunity for alternative treatment. And they went to court, and the court sided against them, sided with the doctors, and Alfie Evans is dead. And the news broke the other day that there were a bunch of cancer patients in the NHS system who are also dead for lack of treatment. The socialist proponents always leave that kind of stuff out. Another interesting thing I saw, there's a Flat Earth Society in the 21st century. There are people that think the Earth is still flat, and one of their leaders, at least one of the big speakers at one of their conferences, is a doctor from the National Health Service, or an administrator. But anyway, speaking of administrators, every year the National Association of Education Professionals in America puts out what's known as the Nation's Report Card. And it measures government school performance, public schools, which is a form of socialism. And I wrote a little article about this the other day, two articles actually. They study performance in the 4th grade, 8th grade, and 12th grade. And I haven't looked at the 4th grade results, but for high school seniors and 8th graders, it's dismal. Something like 2/3 of 8th graders and 12th graders in the government schools have not reached a level of proficiency in reading, and an even worse number can't do math. Now, they have different categories, such as basic, the bare minimum you should know, proficiency, what you really should know, and then the advanced category. And most students fall in between basic and proficient, under proficient. They're not proficient. In other words, they're functionally illiterate, and they can't do math. 2/3. And yet they still, when they get out of high school, they still get graduated. There's never any kind of correction. I may put a link down in the description to what I wrote about the comparison between some of these school districts. In Detroit, I think it's 5% that can read at the expected level, and 7% who can do math, or maybe 7% and 5%, I'm not sure. Either way, what's the point in having a school system if nobody can read, write, and do math? And and when the socialists get to talking about this, they say, well, we need more money, more money, more money, more money, more money for the schools. I looked. Detroit spent about $14,000 last year per student. The national average, I think, is $10,000 or $12,000. So they're spending more and getting just laughably ridiculous results. The average homeschooling parent spends about $900 per child per year with dramatically better results. If I can remember it, I'll put that link down in the description. Moving on to a real, actual socialist experiment in progress, unfolding for the world to see. Once again, Venezuela gives us pause for thought. In Venezuela, inflation quadruples to 18,000% in 2 months, with no end in sight. They think that they're tracking 100,000% inflation this year. In 2 months, they've had 18,000% inflation, which exceeds the estimate that world economists thought they'd have for the entire year of 2018. They haven't reported, actually, their central bank has not reported official inflation numbers since 2004. And that's why this is just this is what an economic collapse looks like. It's unfolding in progress. Preppers, especially in America, should pay close attention to it. And I'll just keep bringing this stuff to your attention as it comes up. Also, let's see what else we have here. I know I beat the gun control drum a lot. It's kind of important. I read a letter to the editor of a mid-sized city newspaper. A slightly hysterical letter, which of course blamed the NRA for all evil on earth, and said that the NRA has essentially bought Congress. Now, I haven't run the numbers, but I'm pretty sure that labor unions, teacher unions, pay a lot more in political contributions than the NRA does, and nobody thinks that they're taking over. And this fella goes on to say, I know who this guy is, but he goes on to say that 80% of Americans, including gun owners, want strict gun control. I know where he got that number from. It was from an NPR poll of NPR listeners weighted towards this particular fellow's political party affiliation. I'll leave it to you to guess which party that is. But anyway, what else did he... Where was the catchphrase that caught my attention? Oh, he says the NRA has co-opted Congress, and they're not obeying the will of these 80% of Democrat voters listening to NPR at one particular time, just happening to take this poll. And that's like a dictatorship. So he says we need gun control, which is funny because that's what real dictators call for all the time. And given this guy's last name, maybe he should know better. I don't know. We'll let that go at that. I was going to write something about it, but he's an older fella, and I don't want to be mean today. I'm in a good mood. So I wrote an article for the Piedmont Chronicles about gun control, and it pulled up a lot of the facts that I've used here before. I may put a link in the description to that. It's a great way to refute socialism, communism, fascism, any kind of ism. All these isms are very interrelated, and they're bad. Drop the isms and just have freedom, like Freedom Prepper, something preppers should be concerned about. Also, backing up to the letter to the editor, his final plea was, let us save our children. Now, nobody disagrees with that, unless you're just purely evil or stupid. We all love our children. We want to help them be happy and safe, and we don't want anything bad to happen to them. I saw something very interesting, because I always compare and contrast the very low number of child deaths in America from firearms incidents to the extremely high number of child deaths in America from abortions. It's funny, these socialist types that want gun control, which is what Hitler wanted, never seem to mind abortion, even though it kills, thousands of times more children than, or hundreds of times more children than guns do. And it's weird because the abortion system in America, as it's set up today, is literally Nazi eugenics in practice. It's a very interesting intellectual quandrum, if you will. But I saw something that said, you know, these population experts, people that say that, oh, there are too many people, and if you're driving on I-75, you get the idea there might be too many people. But even the population experts concerned about rising populations are beginning to see problems here and there all over the world with abortion. Because I may put a link to this, but it's one of those unintended consequences. We'll get rid of the undesirables, but then we have too many desirables, and that's undesirable. Again, what is that? Well, it comes from central planning, socialism, something to avoid at all cost. Now, the last story is something we've been tracking. I can't really find a way to spin it as socialism. But the little caravan that could, I think last week they arrived at the border, and this week they began crossing into the United States from Mexico. And several have crossed illegally and were arrested. Many are hanging back. Many dropped out. And went away. I think there were 1,500 to start, and maybe 500 made it. As of yesterday night, 158 have been admitted to the United States pending refugee asylum claims. Now, I think there's like an 80% rejection rate for the countries where these people come from. But you know that 30, 35, 40 of these people, maybe all 158, are going to make it in. I thought they would. I thought some of these people would finally make it in because there's just no way to stop this. You want to talk about a dictatorship versus the will of the people? Well, the will of the people is we want secure borders, we want actual citizenship, and we want America to continue as a country. And it's weird, we don't even have a dictator to pin this on, but it's not happening. There seems to be absolutely no way to stop this flow of legal or illegal immigration, refugees, and the character of the country continues to change. So it is on this Friday. That's what I got. And, also, in addition to liking the video and sharing and all that, I thank you very much. Don't forget, get this down here. Don't forget to get your Freedom Prepper wear. Love this Freedom Prepper shirt. Soft cotton, so comfortable. It's got the arm patch with the infill logo on it. And I'll put a link in the description where you can get your Freedom Prepper shirt. They also have sweatshirt, hoodies, and other t-shirt designs. Also, some of the emphasis at Freedom Prepper is being shifted over to the Facebook group, which is a private group that you can apply to join. It's pretty easy. And we'll post a lot more stuff there. You're probably seeing this on the Facebook group. Anyway, that's all I got for today. Have a great weekend, and we'll be back with some more news next week.